Hey, true crime fanatics, this is Claire.
And I'm Andy.
You're tuned in to the Homicide Hobbies podcast, which is a podcast for people who love to hear about the horrendous crimes that people commit. Enjoy. Well, what do you have for us today?
Today I'm going to do things a little bit different, and I ain't letting you guess nothing.
Are you going to at least tell us where and when?
Nope. At 5...
Well, this is already stupid. Now I'm all confused. I don't know where I am. I don't know when I am. I'm not sure what mindset to be in.
Well, the mindset is, obviously there's going to be a murder, so...
That's not necessarily true. You've told me ones where nobody dies. See how it starts out confusing?
At 5:10 in the morning on December 3rd, 2023, NYPD officers responded to a 911 call in Queens, New York. There's your when and where.
That wasn't so hard, now was it?
The call to 911 was placed by a young female about an assault in progress. The young female told...
Like a small child or like a 20-year-old?
They said it sounded like a young female. The young female told the dispatcher her cousin was killing her family members. As two officers approached the residence on foot, they see the house is on fire and they encountered a man who had 2 bags of luggage and was walking down the driveway.
He did it.
The officers identified themselves and asked the man the usual questions. Later, I do have body cam footage. It's really hard to hear them. We'll go through it later, but it was a dark, stormy December morning. The man briefly speaks with the officers. He takes a step towards them. It was not an aggressive step. It was kind of slow, almost as if he was trying to hear them better. Seconds, I'm talking not even seconds, the man produces a knife and within 1 second manages to stab one officer in the neck and chest and stabs the other officer in the head. The man who just assaulted the officers is 38-year-old Courtney Gordon. Courtney did not have a criminal history, and he did not receive any major head injury that I am aware of. And yes, his name is Courtney, and he is a boy.
He just randomly stabbed people?
Well, let's get into it. Courtney was living in the Bronx with his Aunt Lillian. Aunt Lillian was Courtney's maternal aunt. Courtney was recently divorced or separated, and he was a father of 3. And I don't know if it was
Does he have a mental health diagnosis of some sort?
I don't know if it was substance abuse, his pending divorce, or mental health issues, but Aunt Lillian and other family members began noticing strange and concerning behaviors.
Like him randomly stabbing people in the front yard?
Courtney, who was already a short-fused individual, became even more unpredictable and displayed more erratic behaviors. The people I'm about to tell you about, I realize there's a lot of moving parts. Just understand that both sides of this guy's family seem to really want to help him, and they all live in 2 houses. Like everybody just lives together. So in Aunt Lillian's house, her kids, who are all adults, by the way, everybody's living there with their significant others and their children, and these houses are packed full. Now, Courtney, who's recently separated or divorced from his wife, is kind of bouncing around between staying on the couches. He goes and starts living with his Aunt Lillian and her family, and they're all those kids in that house. And he's just kind of seems like his brain is snapping. But his family said that he displayed even more erratic behaviors. His Aunt Lillian and everybody else, they were becoming afraid of him. Aunt Lillian ended up installing cameras inside of her home to use as protection so they could know where he was, and if he did anything, it was recorded. They also all slept with locks on their bedroom doors.
Because he's into the drugs and stuff?
Not that I'm aware of. Nowhere in this is there...
Oh, you said alcohol or substance abuse.
I said I don't know. It's unknown if that was involved. His family doesn't even know, which makes me think it wasn't. But they would sleep with their doors locked because he was downstairs.
That seems like somebody you want your children around.
Right? And one day when Aunt Lillian comes home, Courtney had changed all the locks on the doors.
The cojones on that feller.
Right? Then he also insisted that she take those security cameras down.
I don't like being peeped at.
It was confirmed by other family members that, yes, he was in fact a short-fused individual, and it didn't take much to piss him off. He would get loud and volatile whenever he didn't get his way. He kind of reminded me of a toddler, reading it, that is. You don't get your way, so you throw a temper tantrum? All right. he struggled to keep a job because he was so quick-tempered. If he had a job and someone at that job tried to correct literally anything he was doing, he would fly off in a rage, storm out, resulting in him quitting or being fired from that job. We all know, or should know at this point, that without a job, you tend to not have money. Without money, you can't afford food, rent, or a mortgage. Most likely, he's not going to be able to afford his child support. You end up not being able to afford life, and not being able to afford life is depressing and frustrating. And now he's going through his divorce. Like, life is just a shit show for this guy.
It's hard to feel sorry for somebody who made his choices.
Yeah. And that's my long-winded way of telling you that he was constantly struggling with homelessness. He was lucky to have, like I said before, the family that he's got, because they genuinely cared about him and his well-being. Courtney, like I said, was living with his Aunt Lillian for several years at this point, but they were seeing him mentally unravel. And Courtney's sister, Nicole, tried to have him committed because of his outbursts. And the hospital, they sent people out and they tried to talk with Courtney. He refused to go with them. And since at this specific moment,
it'd have to be voluntary.
Yeah, because he didn't appear to be a threat to himself or others. He did not have a criminal history of any sort. Nobody could force Courtney to get the help that he desperately needed. And since he couldn't be forced into receiving medical treatment to assist him with his mental health, Aunt Lillian felt forced to kick him out of the house. He wasn't getting better. He doesn't want help. And you have other people...
And he changed the fucking locks. I would have kicked his ass out for that.
Right? Courtney did end up getting arrested in the Bronx in February of 2021. He was charged with strangulation in a domestic violence case. I don't have the details on that case, so I don't know if it was like his ex-wife, or maybe it was his wife and that's why she became his soon-to-be ex-wife. I don't know if it was somebody else in the house. I have no idea, but I do know he did get arrested for domestic violence, specifically strangulation.
Could have been his last job.
That's true too. Now, Courtney, after being given the boot by Aunt Lillian in the Bronx, seemed to couch surf between relatives, shelters, and dabbled in homelessness. And that's when he ended up moving with his paternal aunt, Christine Watson, in Queens, New York. Aunt Christine's house was another full house.
They had twins?
Shut up, you're so stupid. Living with Aunt Christine were her 16-year-old daughter, Ruth Ann, her 44-year-old daughter, Suzette Taylor Davis, Suzette's husband, or Aunt Christine's son-in-law, Richmond Davis, as well as their two children, an 11-year-old girl named Michaela and 12-year-old boy, Roshan. And now, Courtney has just moved in.
How many people?
So you've got Aunt Christine, her 16-year-old daughter, her 44-year-old daughter, the 44-year-old daughter's husband, and their two kids, and now Courtney. So 7 people.
First, I thought you were just going to give me the roll call again. I ain't good at the counting, huh?
I was counting. I was using my fingers. I was about to run out of them, though.
7? What happened?
No, when I was getting to 7, I was like, I was sitting there like, oh my God, there can't.
I didn't take off these shoes.
There better not be too many more people because these fingers are running out. Anyway, prior to stabbing the 2 officers, shut up, Claire. I know you're probably wondering what might have been the catalyst for Courtney. And apparently, Courtney's short-tempered outbursts were one too many for such close quarters. And right after Thanksgiving, Courtney was told he needed to get out. During the wee hours of December 3rd, 2023, Courtney packed his bags. But before he left, he maliciously attacked everyone in the house with a steak knife, prompting the 911 call at 5:08 in the morning.
Oh, shit.
He then set the front part of the house on fire as he walked out the front door with his bags in tow. But what happened prior to the 911 call and after? Well, you kind of know what happened after because I told you about the police officers being stabbed. But prior to 911, the 16-year-old Ruth Ann was hanging out with her younger cousins in their bedroom, Roshan and Michaela, the 11 and 12-year-old. They were catching up with 16-year-old Ruth Ann until almost 2 o'clock in the morning when the 3 of them decided they're a bit sleepy. Let's go to bed.
What year, or like what time of year is this? It's not summer. I thought it was cold.
December 3rd. It's a Saturday it's the wee hours of a Sunday morning, so.
Yeah, but the children need to get ready for the school is what I was thinking.
No.
But if it's Saturday.
Technically it's Sunday morning, but whatever. They done ain't gone to bed yet, so it's the weekend.
They don't have school, is what the focus.
But 16-year-old Ruth Ann walked through the living room where Courtney was scrolling on his phone on the couch.
Does no one sleep? That's what the problem with this is. Sleep is a real problem.
And he's sleep deprived.
It's good for your mental health.
It is.
Naps. It's all right to take them.
So Ruth Ann decides she's going to go to bed as well. And the 16-year-old walks to her bedroom that she shares with her mother, Aunt Christine. Can I just say that when I was 16, there's not a chance in hell I would have wanted to share a bedroom with our mother.
So you're saying you want to now?
No, I barely enjoy sharing now.
Your room?
No, I'm just kidding.
Is it because he smells?
No, I'm just kidding.
It's the farting in front of the fan, isn't it?
It is. That is what it is. I love you too.
It's not romantic. That is not the pillow talk.
But seriously, could you imagine sleeping in the same bed as mom at 16? Anyway, around 4 a.m., everybody's gone to bed, or so they thought. And around 4 a.m., Ruth Ann and her mom, or Courtney's aunt, Christine, were startled awake by blood-curdling screams coming from down the hall. Aunt Christine and her youngest daughter, Ruth Ann, both jump out of bed and peek out into the hallway. Christine sees her son-in-law, Richmond, stumble, clutching his bloodied chest as he slumped down against her bedroom door, while Courtney was standing over him, stabbing the unarmed man.
How old is Richmond?
He's in his 30s. So I did find it frustrating because literally every news article you read, once they disclose who the victims are, they've got everybody's ages except Richmond's. And everything says he's estimated to be in his 30s. And I was just like, all right. How does he not have an ID? Like I have so many questions about this fella. If they can identify him, how come no one knows his age? And I think it's because he's such a minor part of the story. I realize he's being stabbed and assaulted or whatever, but
I don't feel like he would think he was the minor part.
Oh, I feel so sorry for Richmond, and you'll see why in a second.
Because he's stabbed. I feel bad for him already.
It gets worse. Christine is seeing Courtney stabbing him, Richmond, right? Mm-hmm. And now Richmond's up against Christine and her youngest daughter, Ruth Ann's bedroom door, right? And he slumped down to the ground. Courtney's standing over him, stabbing him. Temporarily frozen with fear, the screams of 11-year-old Michaela pierced the eerie silence in the New York home, fully adrenalizing 61-year-old Christine and 16-year-old Ruth Ann. They try to retreat back into their bedroom, and they repeatedly attempt to slam the bedroom door shut, while Courtney was pushing against it, trying to gain entry into their bedroom. The door would not shut. Do you have that mental picture right now?
Yeah, he's shoving it. They're trying to shut it. He's pushing on it. They can't get it shut.
During all the commotion of trying to close the bedroom door, Christine and Ruth Ann realize Richmond, the fellow that just got stabbed, was still alive because from down on the floor, they hear Richmond say, "You're squeezing my head."
How's he squeezing his head and he can't get the door open?
No, Richmond is the guy that Courtney just stabbed, the brother-in-law.
I know, but I'm saying, I thought he's shoving the door to get it open. How's he squishing somebody's head and trying to shove into the door?
So Courtney wasn't squishing his head. They were squishing his head in the door.
Oh.
Right. I was just like, this poor feller just got stabbed repeatedly. He went to them for help, and now they're smashing his head in the door. And the only thing he could say in his dying breaths was, "You're squeezing my head." Unable to pull him into the room without letting Courtney in, Richmond is shoved into the hallway so they could successfully slam the door shut.
Oh.
I know. I was like, oh, this poor guy. And his daughter, the 11-year-old Michaela, just witnessed this.
And I'm just going to tell you, and this is why you should have hatchets on your nightstand.
Well, Courtney's trying to break down the door. 16-year-old Ruth Ann is trying to keep the door shut. Her mother, 61-year-old Christine, is supposed to run and call 911, but she's in such a state of shock, she's of no help. So they switch roles. 61-year-old Christine is holding the door, and 16-year-old Ruth Ann was to go call 911. While Ruth Ann was crawling across the bed to retrieve the phone and dial 911, Courtney busted down the door. Their attacker is now in the room. Courtney's brandished a knife while in a fit of rage, and Christine screams, "You want to kill me? You're going to kill your auntie? You should have been dead a long time ago."
Why is he having the voice of Grover?
Because you get mad at me if I make him sound like,
"You should have been dead a long time ago."
because I don't feel like they deserve to sound like they have testicles in any way, shape, or form. But anyway, so he's in the room, he's pissed, and while her 38-year-old cousin is stabbing her 61-year-old mother, 16-year-old Ruth Ann jumps out the window on the first floor bedroom and ran for her life. She jumped over a fence and just kept running. She knocked on neighbors' doors. No one was awake at that time, so nobody was answering the doors.
Mention that. I wouldn't answer my door at that time of day either.
Well, and Ruth Ann, she just continued to run, and she knew her family needed help, and they needed it now. After viciously stabbing Aunt Christine, and he thought she was dead, he moved on to his next victims. He went to 44-year-old Suzette's room, where she was trying to protect her young children. Courtney, at this point, is completely unhinged and repeatedly stabbed Suzette in front of her 2 kids. He then turned his attention to 12-year-old Roshan. He stabbed the young boy to death. Michaela, the 11-year-old, attempted to flee the carnage, but Courtney savagely chased down the terrified 11-year-old as she nearly escaped into the cool, crisp December morning air. He fatally stabbed her in the doorway of the front yard. So she made it to the front door before he caught her.
Dude, his ex-wife made a good choice.
Right? Courtney's 16-year-old cousin, Ruth Ann, the one that jumped out the window and was hightailing it, she was hiding, but she was able to see her family's home. She had successfully called 911. That's the 911 call that sent everybody out that way. She noticed that Courtney was sitting in the driver's seat of Richmond's car that was parked in the driveway. And then all of a sudden an ambulance pulls up. In order to let the paramedics know that the attempted family annihilator was in the driver's seat of the car in the driveway, she would have to run across the driveway in plain sight of Courtney, who's in the driver's seat.
How old is she?
She's
16?
Yeah. She took a deep breath and darted across the driveway, trying to warn the paramedics, which she successfully did. And that brings us to where I told you Courtney is confronted by the 2 officers at the end of the driveway, and he just stabbed the one officer in the neck and chest and stabbed the other officer in the head with a regular old kitchen steak knife. And in the body cam footage, it looks like Courtney pulls the knife out of his butt, like the top of his ass crack. I realize it's probably in the back of his pants or his back pocket or perhaps in his belt, but it seems like a hazardous storage of a non-foldable knife because it's just it's a kitchen steak knife.
You don't know what else he's got in his jail wallet.
One of the now wounded, fully adrenalized officers, who has been a part of the NYPD for 28 years, draws his weapon after being stabbed and fires it several times at Courtney. And now that's where we have the body cam footage that I want you to watch, Claire. And I'm just telling everybody now, it's hard to hear what's going on. I'll run you through it. The officers are walking down the sidewalk. The ambulance is to the left. Courtney's at the end of the driveway. They approach. They ask him, does he live there? Is he the one that called 911? You know, the typical trying to assess the situation. But if you'll play that, Claire.
If you stop talking. Psh. I didn't have my volume on. I was going to say, this is real quiet.
Call police? You call the police? Anyone know? You don't know? Huh? I don't know. You tell me. You live here? Yeah. Where you live? Trying to go somewhere. One with David. 10-13. Shots fired.
Dude, that was fast.
Yeah.
Because he just looks like he's looking around, and that was...
He showed no sign of aggression, and then all of a sudden, it was... How fast would you say he stabbed them? 3 stabs, and it's not even... It doesn't even feel like it's a full second.
Like, that was quick, because it's just... He's walking up, or well, he doesn't even walk up. They walk up, and he seems like somebody who's trying to also figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
People need to watch that and understand why police are...
quick to draw their weapons?
I was going to say, yeah, or jumpy, of like, that was unnecessary, but...
Yeah.
Do the officers die?
Hang on. So paramedics now, which, by the way, something that Jason pointed out was how fast in that video the ambulance got the hell out of Dodge. And I was like, well, it's because it's an unsafe scene and they're not supposed to be there until the scene is deemed safe. But
Yeah.
the ambulance just, second shots are fired, the ambulance takes off and literally has to drive around Courtney to get away. But paramedics return and they take the wounded officers and Courtney, who was shot multiple times, to the hospital. Now, fast forward to backup arriving. Firefighters are putting out the flames. During the process of the flames being extinguished, the remains of a young girl were found outside of the residence, and those remains were of 11-year-old Michaela. The other officers at the residence quickly begin their investigation after the fire was completely put out and they've entered the home. They found several more victims in the house. Courtney had fatally stabbed his 44-year-old cousin Suzette. Her husband, Richmond, was fatally stabbed. Their 12-year-old son, Roshan, was found dead in the back of the house. And in case you've lost track, that's now 4 dead family members. A 5th person was found by the officers, and that was Courtney's 61-year-old Aunt Christine, who he'd viciously stabbed multiple times. She was rushed to the hospital where police say she was in critical condition. 38-year-old Courtney Gordon was pronounced dead at the hospital. Courtney's 61-year-old Aunt Christine did recover from the attempt made on her life by her nephew. And both officers, like I said before, one of them was a 28-year veteran of the force and the other was a 16-year veteran of the force. And they both were very lucky and made full recoveries of their injuries.
Good.
But that is my Courtney Gordon. And this feller, I don't know what made his brain snap, but he snapped.
What happened to him?
He got shot.
I know.
He died.
He's dead. Oh, okay. Well,
he was pronounced dead at the hospital.
So there's only one surviving family member? Where does she go?
The 16-year-old that called 911 and her mother survived.
Oh,
and then you have also the other house of people
that they bounced
where he
around.
lived before. So everybody out in the Bronx, they were just like, man, because he'd only been living with his Aunt Christine and her and like that inside of the family for a couple weeks before they were like, yeah, I can't do this. I'm sorry. You're going to have to go. And then he responded with trying to kill everybody. And I didn't feel like it was important, but he was texting his mom before he did all of this. So Saturday night, he had texted her that he loved her very much. And she said it didn't seem like anything was out of the norm. But
does he usually just randomly text that he loves her?
Apparently they were close. But it also made me question, why doesn't he live with her then?
Maybe that's what he was hoping she'd offer.
Maybe. I just thought it was really sad.
It is. It's all really sad. And that poor feller had his head being smushed, because I can only imagine how hard they were trying to get that door shut.
Yeah.
Hey.
Making that decision, too, to shove him into the hallway the rest of the way.
So, I think that wasn't, I mean, obviously it's not thought out. It's just you're trying to save yourself.
Yeah. I don't know.
You'd be able to make that decision. Otherwise, you'd be dead.
Yeah.
Well, I would assume he's got some sort of, or had some sort of brain hole problem.
So it makes me question, you know how like schizophrenia shows up later in life? I realize it's a lot later for him because it's usually in your late teens, early 20s that it shows up. And I'm not saying that's what his problem was. It's just he did have a job that he did go to and he worked and seemed fairly sane. He was short-tempered, but his brain hole completely snapped at some point. I'm curious if the separation of his wife and his kids kind of just made him snap. And then living in close quarters with a lot of people, that's probably also very uncomfortable and awkward. I realize they're family, but you're used to living your own way. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like his family knew he was struggling with depression. They knew that he was struggling with being very unhappy. And about a week before he snapped.
Yeah, well, it would make sense because his whole life drastically changed. He doesn't have his own life. He's living off of everybody else.
Yeah.
And what do they always say? You lash out at the ones you love the most.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
It's not. You hurt the people you love. He literally did.
You also have done lots of cases of people that hurt the ones that they don't even know.
I didn't say it was exclusive.
People just hurt people.
It's going to be coined by Andrea. That's what you said. People just hurt people, Andy.
They do. Dude, I don't try to hurt anybody, especially the people I care about.
But you end up hurting the people you love the most.
No.
Is this thing on?
Anyway, but yeah, that's Courtney Gordon. That's all I got.
What are you doing?
I'm here.
Okay, well, do your that's all you got.
Do you have anything to add?
No, that's what I said. You gotta do your that's all you got.
I did it twice already.
No, you did not.
That's all I got.
Okay. Thank you for listening to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Claire.
I'm Andy.
Follow us each week to get your fix of the atrocities that occur in true crime. And don't forget to tell people about us and rate us if you like us. But don't rate us if you didn't. Just change the channel.